Well, friends of the world, Maldini, let's get into that video I promised you analyzing. Yesterday, you had the video I made about the main signings right after the transfer market ended. And I promised you that we would make this video going into quite a bit of depth. Now, exclusively about the signing of Nico González by Manchester City. I'm going to comment on Movistar for both matches, the one next Tuesday at the Etihad, the first leg against Real Madrid, as well as the following Wednesday, the return of Bernardo. And we'll see if this can improve. As for Manchester City, I'm going to talk a little bit about what Nico González is like. I'm going to talk about, you're going to see him in some screenshots that I've taken for you. From Porto's last few games, the type of player he is, we are going to see many things, and then we are going to finish the video by looking at the Campito with the possibilities where he can play. And of course, I'm going to share my opinion because that's what we're here for, friends of the world, Maldini. I'm going to give my thoughts on what I think. The signing of this guy, Nico González, they paid 60 million. I was quite surprised. I have to say it. First, I was quite surprised that Manchester City didn't try to sign a player, at least of this profile, a midfielder, a central midfielder, with some nuances. No one should compare him to Rodri because Rodri is incomparable. And I have some doubts. Given the position he was playing at Porto, I have some doubts about whether he can be the positional midfielder. And I want to explain exactly why I have those doubts. Let's go. The first thing we're going to do, I've already pulled up quite a few clips of. Let's see, he's a great player, having an excellent season at Porto. There's no doubt about that. Nico González is a player who has grown a lot in Portuguese football. Portuguese football is tough. It's not an easy game to play, not at all. It's a really tough league, Portuguese football. So in that sense, I believe that due to his experience, he's a player who can contribute a lot. What position does he move in the most? Here we have it from the last match he played with Porto against Maccabi Tel Aviv, a match that was played in Belgrade from the Europa League, from the last match day of the Europa League group stage. And here we have Nico González exactly in a double pivot with Varela. He has been playing in a double pivot with Varela, a double pivot with Eustáquio, and sometimes even a little bit further up. But he's a pure pivot. Well, he's a pure pivot. At Porto, it's been more Varela than Nico González. In fact, Nico González, and then we're going to see it in many with Viscauten, Nico González. Here we see him. This position of Nico González with Varela behind him and him dropping into the area is quite common. I see him more as an interior midfielder than a positional central midfielder. I'm serious. He can play as a positional central midfielder. He's played matches there, and I imagine that's what they want from him. Pep Guardiola. Then we're going to see the possible field, but for sure, looking at Porto, he's a player who drops back a lot. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. It's quite common to see him arrive. Here we have him again. Here, he's pressing well, by the way, but once again, he's dropping back. With Varela behind, this is the whole match against Maccabi Tel Aviv. That player's cut, Porto was playing right there. Here we have another one with Varela. Both of them, he's a little bit ahead, managing the team. Here, clearly managing the team. With Varela behind. Then we'll come back to some clips that I've prepared for you. These are the ones I've prepared for you to take a look at. As for Nico González, it's clear that Manchester City wants a pivot. It's clear that they want a pivot. And it's clear that Guardiola has realized that Kovacic can't perform that role in the most important matches because he's a player who needs to get forward a lot. He's a player who has the ability to drive the ball forward. His own style of play makes him lose his position, driving forward a lot into the attack. So he needs a player who can balance things out a lot more. And I think that's where the signing of Nico González comes in. As he's a player who can play in that role, let's take a look at some details. Then we'll check out the Campito to wrap things up. I don't want to make a video that's too long and too heavy, but I do want us to look at some aspects. For example, the match against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Take a look at this match against Maccabi Tel Aviv, the last game he played. He is number 16. Take a look. Where is the midfield position? Here you can see it perfectly with Vice Scouts. The midfield position is true that it was a match they needed to win and against a pretty weak team like Maccabi Tel Aviv. Midfield position, here you have it. Quite high in terms of midfield position. But for example, let's now look at a match. What we're seeing is the game against Olympiacos. They lost 0-1. A home game. Here he plays more positionally, but always with Varela, who is number 22 behind. Do you see Varela behind and in front? Nico González. This has really been the trend. I'm talking about matches. For example, if you look at this, here we have it. Notice the midfield position of Nico González this season. A little bit to the left, not a pure pivot, but also getting forward quite a bit. Notice that. The red zone is the area he has occupied the most, closer to the left interior than to the central midfielder. That is the true reality of what he has done so far. Nico González at Porto. We already know that Guardiola is capable of improving players. An absolute madness, an absolute madness. Regarding entries into the penalty area in the last matches, here we really have it. Well, he enters from all areas, but there's more tendency towards the left wing. Here you have it. Right wing, 13 passes, 13 attempts, 10 successful passes. Left wing, these are the last matches, 19. And through the center, 16. That is to say, a tendency to go a little further to the left. That's what it seems to me. Quite evident. Dribbles in the final third, you can see it here as well. Exactly the same. There we see it better. Look. Followed by a shot, several close to the area, of course, but more tendency to dribble, a little closer to the left side. And if we see in the last matches, I think it becomes quite clear. Here we have it, by the way, with Samu Morodion. Let's also take a look at this tremendous leap from Nico González, how far it can take him, because that's also very important. How far it can take Nico González, it's very important for him to establish himself in that pivot position. It has been 60 million. It has been 60 million. I want us to take a look at some things, more than what I've prepared for you, as I've always prepared a lot for these videos. Friends from the world, Maldini. Here we have it again. Another one of these photos that I've prepared for you. This is the match against Olympiacos, where he plays more positionally, but still, he's attacking. Here's Samu Morodion, so you can get an idea. This is Samu Morodion. That is to say, he's attacking. He's ahead of Eniku, of Varela. That double pivot, which is the one I've liked the most. Although Eustáquio, by the way, is the player who has made the most passes this season at Porto, I also have to say it. And then the ability to get there, that he has the ability to get there. This is the play of the goal. That gave Porto the victory against Maccabi in Belgrade. The last match, Nico played 0-1 with his goal, arriving from the second line to finish this ball with a good cross from João Mario. He does that quite a bit, of course. Also, Nico González is a cross from the right, and he finishes it. That is to say, he's a player who has the ability to get there, and that's also important. In the pressure, here we have it. This is against Arauca. In the pressure as well. This is a goal that he's going to score, recovering the ball, coming from behind to press there. In the pressure, he's also used to doing it. In the pressure, he's also used to doing it at Porto, but of course, it's not the same as getting to Manchester City. Supporting counterattacks. This is a goal also against Rio Ave, which he scored, supporting counterattacks. In this play, he starts from the back in a counterattack, and then this same play, he finishes with a ball that falls to him at the edge of the area and unleashes that impossible right-footed shot for the goalkeeper. He's a player who also has a good strike. Before seeing Manchester City's pitch and giving my final verdict on what I think, for example, this is the match against the Maccabi. Notice that he stops 3 actions, and notice that practically all the actions in the first half and most of the second are all near the left side. The passes, I insist. He's a player who has a much greater tendency to play close to the left side. Match against Olympiacos, where he played more positionally. Well, here you have it too. Here he played more positionally, practically in the same actions. But here you see this match can be much more useful. What Guardiola wants. He's more positional, much more in the middle, and making plays in many more different areas of the field. That's what I think he's going to look for. And we're going to wrap up. This would be a reasonable lineup for Manchester City. By the way, Ruben Dias is still, we don't know if he'll be able to make it against Real Madrid. He's going to try, but we don't know. So, when in doubt, let's take out Ruben Dias and put in Stones. He also seems like he can make it without any issues. Nico Luis to play on the right wing instead of Mateus Nunes. I don't think Mateus Nunes is ready for a match of this level at the fullback position, but well, this would be a reasonable lineup. With Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, Sabinho, Foden and Haaland. Yeah, Grealish can come in here, Gundogan can come in, but I don't think so. I'm not liking it at all. Gundogan, of course, but Nico González is coming in. So what's going on with Nico González? Well, I think Nico González is going to play. He's going to make Bernardo Silva. I think he could drop back. Sabinho would be the most normal choice. Foden moving into this area, and here comes Nico González to play a bit on the left. Kovacic, Nico González with De Bruyne. Let's see how Bernardo Silva is doing. Bernardo Silva is a player who has sometimes been playing almost glued to the wing, but in the last few matches, because he needed help from Kovacic, he has had to drop back a lot to assist. Well, that problem is solved with the arrival of Nico González. Obviously, so Bernardo Silva, who I think is very important, I'm not saying he won't come back at times to help in midfield. over here. That's the area if De Bruyne doesn't get there well. But come on, Nico González playing here, getting quite far up the pitch, but in many moments more positional because it will be Kovacic who does more of the back and forth. I think De Bruyne is going to play against Real Madrid. He's not in great form, but he's going to play. In case Kevin De Bruyne doesn't play, well, logically, that would be the more offensive option. With Sabinho, Foden inside, Bernardo Silva and Haaland. I consider Bernardo Silva a starter. I don't think there are many more possibilities, honestly, but well, I would lean with Foden here and De Bruyne here. I think that would make a lot more sense because of the help Bernardo Silva provides. But well, the key is Nico González. And to wrap up the video, it seems to me that it's not, let's see, he can fit the profile that Guardiola is looking for. He can be the more positional pivot that Pep Guardiola wants, but that's not exactly what's happening. He's a player who is dropping back a lot. On the left side, more of an interior player than a pivot. It's true that when he started in Spanish football at Barca, then we saw him at Valencia. He can be a pivot, of course. But it's not exactly the positional pivot role that he has been playing at Porto. Let's see if Guardiola can bring back that side of Nico González. It's a very important signing. That's right, a hug. Bye.